Welcome back to Podcast Recovery, everyone. We're your hosts, David O.
And Eric B.
And today we're joined by our very special guest, Ben. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. You know,
Great.
It's a little humid. It's kind of muggy, but it's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you from, Ben?
From Eldersburg, Maryland.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
the country.
Oh, yeah, the country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When were you first introduced to recovery?
About 14, 15 years ago, maybe. Through the court systems, you know. I had one of those special invitations.
Yep, the nudge from the judge.
Right.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
of course. And
Yeah.
how long have you been clean?
10 years.
10 years.
As of this July.
Nice.
Last July. Whatever.
What, 2 months ago?
Right.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And with all that out of the way, I'm going to turn it over to you to share your story with us. So take it away.
All right. Well, like I said, I live in Eldersburg. I was born and raised in Eldersburg. You know, dipped out a few times, but always came back.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up in that, suburban lifestyle. Parents.
How old are you?
I'm 37.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was suburbia at its
90s.
finest, right, in the 90s, early 2000s. And, just had a very carefree childhood of... My parents were both teachers, like very,
Nice.
white pickety fence kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
No drugs in the family, no drinking other than special events, holidays, very, modest lifestyle. There's not a lot, especially in the early childhood. And then middle school happened, and that's when things kind of
course,
took a turn.
Yep.
I was bullied a whole bunch. I am more feminine than most boys my age. And at that point, when you're,
How tall
12,
were you? Because you're tall now.
Oh, no, I was short and fat in middle school.
Oh.
Yeah, I was chunky. I had boobs, so people didn't know if I was a girl or a boy because my voice was higher than most. So yeah, it was just bully central. Wasn't great.
Kids are the worst.
I know. Yeah. They really are. But I got into high school and, puberty kicked in and I realized that I was not attracted to women. I was attracted to men. And then I was like, oh, that's why everyone was making fun of me because I was actually different.
Yeah.
So, and it was helpful. It was too late. Like the damage had already been done because for all those years they were bullying me for a reason that I didn't know yet about myself. I knew that I was different because I could see that I'd rather play with dolls than with trucks, and I didn't want to play sports. And, at a failed attempt, my parents made me play baseball. I got hit by the ball more than I hit the ball. Like, I just was not interested in doing that.
Yeah.
And then once I realized I was gay, I was like, oh, but still being ridiculed for years without knowing why.
Did you come out in high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was the first and only to come out in my high school. There's been many of my friends have come out since
in Western
then.
Maryland,
Right.
It's probably not particularly common.
Right. It was not... I wasn't like super out to everyone, but like my people knew. And I mean, most of the high school knew. I mean, I was in show tunes. Yeah. I was in the color guard. Like, I was in chorus. I played the flute. Like,
What's
it was
the
just...
color guard?
ROTC?
No.
No?
No. That is how
That's
it...
not ROTC.
Right.
The color guard was ROTC at my high school.
Right. That's how it began back in the day. That's where it comes from. But it is with the marching band.
Oh, okay.
They're the ones that spin the flags and the weapons, but like in a more artistic, dancey way.
Yeah.
It's not like the military, like...
They have a name?
Yeah,
Yes.
you didn't know it was the color guard?
No.
The ROTC did it in my high school, but no, I know exactly what you're talking
Okay,
Right.
now I know. Yeah, okay. Part of the marching band.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So, yeah.
What high school did you go to?
Century.
Oh, okay.
Your high schools are right next to each other. It's super confusing
Yes.
to me. It
Yeah, they're all-
I taught tennis at both, and I was like, why are the high schools
spread
right
out
next to each other?
Yeah. Yeah, they're basically neighbors.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
You should see the map. Like your neighbor could be going to one school and you're going to another.
Well, yeah, that's what I thought when I was like teaching tennis there. I was like, how do they decide? You know, like, and then like friendships are kind of broken up probably because like your friend goes there and your friend goes there and like you live on the same street, but like, oh well, you live on that side of the road.
Yeah, they just kind of close their eyes and draw a line.
Oh, yeah.
And like everyone here goes to Liberty, everyone here goes to Century.
All right, so anyway, keep going. Wait,
So...
one last question. Were you out to your parents as well?
No.
Okay.
My parents are conservative. Conservative people. So, you know, I'll get to that. Okay. So yeah, high school, I mean, it went a little better, but like I found my people and like people is so important. Like just
the drama people are always the best.
Right.
People.
Yeah. I had like drama people. I had band people. They were loyal. You know, I was friends with a lot of girls that were popular and they protected me from their boyfriends because the boyfriends were the mean ones,
Dicks.
the jocks.
Yeah, the jocks. Yeah.
Right. So, but I was friends with cheerleaders
Who were
and
secretly closeted about their own
were they
situation.
mean in high school though? Like, did that continue to high school?
Yeah, there was definitely bullying, but it just was, it was less, you know, it was just, people kind of found their niches and kind of left the other niches alone for the most part. But, you know, in the hallway, you just, you know, it'd be called words and
that's awful.
Things just in passing. And then I would tell their girlfriends and then they'd break up with them. And I'd be like, hey, shouldn't have done that.
You had the power.
Right. Yeah. Right. So, and then through high school, because I was in all the nerd activities, I was still oblivious to drugs. You know, like I was oblivious to people. You didn't
you didn't have drugs at cast parties?
They might know.
I supplied the drugs at cast parties.
No.
It depends on the techies and like the people, like the, you know, people like me and you who were in the.
Oh no,
like,
I was bringing the drugs to the cast parties.
Well, yeah, but like, when did you join the cast? Right? Like,
all 4 years, dude.
Okay, yeah.
I was a lead as a freshman.
I could see it being different for certain people. You know, if you weren't like in the group with the people doing drugs, like you kind of have to be invited in, right?
I guess.
Right.
Yeah. Were you inviting like the lead girl who was kind of a goodie, like, you know, in the back room?
Dude, the cast party was the cast party.
I know.
Anyway,
there's different rooms, right?
So you're oblivious to drugs in your cast parties. Go.
Yeah. There could have been, it could have been happening, but I had no idea if it was happening. So it wasn't until I graduated that I started to experiment. So through high school, I was weird enoughly dating. My freshman year, I was dating a girl. She was a senior. It was weird because I wasn't out yet, but she was kind of the one that helped me figure it out. Yeah. Because I did things that I never wanted to do again. So it was very helpful, but she smoked weed. And I was like, you're going to die. Like, you're going to overdose. Like, my education of drugs was so minimal because it was DARE. I mean, it was DARE. It was terrible. That's all I knew. I didn't know anything real. I just knew that you were going to die from drugs. And marijuana was a drug, and she was going to die. I was so scared. So eventually I ended up, her best friend was also secretly gay. And then we ended up, and that was my first thing was with her best friend, which was very dramatic when she found out that her boyfriend and best friend were hooking up. And I hope she doesn't listen to this. I'm very sorry. But yeah, he also smoked weed. So then eventually after I graduated, I tried weed for the first time. I don't even, it was so long ago, I couldn't even tell you where the breakdown was. But, I feel like I was so tied up by rules because my mom was my teacher. She was just a stickler teacher. That once I turned 18, she kind of was like, just go, do whatever you want. And I did. And then I just feel like I was like, I just want to experience things now. So I tried it. It was awful. I thought I was going to throw up. I stood next to a light, and I'm very tall at this point. So the ceilings were kind of close to my head. And I'm like, is my hair on fire? And I just had to go in the bathroom and dry heave and be alone, be alone. But then, I obviously wanted to do it the next day. And I got in with some friends that, I had a group that were like half band nerds, but then half stoner kids.
Yeah.
Because they had all been friends since childhood. So I kind of like started to go towards the stoner kids in the group instead of the drama nerds. And then, that was my 18, 19s and 20, basically. It was just smoking weed.
Yep.
Partying, drinking bottles of Robitussin, Cortisone.
Road tripping, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Something I never did.
I would not recommend it.
No, it was terrible. It was.
I have no desire.
Right.
To.
I loved it, but it was terrible.
Right.
I don't know how your stomach. Ugh,
Well, you don't. You just puke it up, and then you trip.
Yep. And then yep.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Were you in college at the time, Ben, or were you just kind of hanging out?
Well, kind of. I was always kind of in college. I went to a community college my freshman year of college and did medium, because I was still going to classes then.
Yeah.
And then my what would be sophomore year of college, I went to Pittsburgh.
Oh.
For a year.
Like to Pitt or to...
No, it was a small liberal arts school. I was going for musical theater, which was the dumbest thing I've ever done because I might have been good in my little town of Eldersburg in high school. But then when I got to a school in a city with people from all over the country, I was like, oh, I'm not very good. I'm not very good at this. So, so I decided to just drink and smoke weed. I was living alone for the first time ever. It was in a city. There were gay bars that I had never really experienced thus far. And I just stopped going to class. I just would sleep all day. I would work at Chili's so I could pay rent. And I would, just drink until I eventually got fired from Chili's because I called out one too many times from being too hungover and had to go home. Like already dropped out of college, basically. So I came home and then just the party continued. I worked at Chili's in Eldersburg and
Is that Chili's still there too?
Yep. Yeah.
I didn't even know Chili's was still a thing.
Yeah, it's still a thing.
Chili's is never going anywhere. It's
right.
like Ruby Tuesdays. It's TGIF.
All of those.
Right. Yeah, it's a staple.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just, partied and nothing really bad happened, It was just kind of like, there would be hangovers but I was basically driving from like my friend's house who lived a half a mile from me to my house, like I might have been on a different realm from the acid and the ecstasy and the whatever's.
Candy flipping, of course.
Whatever we got, that's kind of how I lived, was just whatever we could get our hands on that night. That's what we were doing.
Yeah.
And if it was just weed, it was just weed. If it was...
That was your, 18 to 20
Yeah,
range?
18.
I can very much relate to it. Being like, okay, what's tonight? Oh, you just got pills? Sure.
Right.
Whatever.
Right. So eventually, I turned 21, but was still... I was more of a pothead, So we went out to a gay club. I ended up driving home because I was the least drunk of all my friends, which shows like I just wasn't that into drinking. I went to lunch with my friend, got a margarita, and then we went out and I was just like, meh, whatever. I'd rather be in a field smoking weed, tripping balls, But eventually I got arrested for smoking weed. I was in Columbia Mall in the parking garage and I was smoking weed in the parking garage because
parking garage?
At that point, what?
Which parking garage? I worked at Columbia Mall.
Oh, the one.
So did he.
Yeah.
The one on the other side. I worked at the Cheesecake Factory.
Okay.
And it was the one on the other side
over
of
by,
the
like,
mall.
Macy's?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was that
I smoked
one.
weed in that parking lot too.
That's where I used to smoke when I was at San Quentin.
It's like...
You got popped there?
Yep. I
Dude.
wish I knew... Now what I knew then, like it was a security guard that like blocked my car in and I should have just gotten out of my car and walked into the mall and ditched the weed in a bush. They couldn't have stopped me. But since I stopped and waited for the cops to show up, I got arrested. So that was the first, run in. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell anyone. It was just a secret. And I went to court. I had to be on probation. So there goes weed, I couldn't smoke anymore because that shit stays in your system forever. Yeah. So luckily I was 21. So then what became smoking every night turned into drinking every night. And that's, it's just so weird being down here in the Ellicott City, Columbia area, because that's where I drank. Because I worked at the Cheesecake Factory, and I would be going to Union Jack's, to Phoenix, to Clyde's, Naughty's.
Phoenix Emporium?
Yep.
So you did all Ellicott City.
Right.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. It's so crazy that all of our timelines, so many people around here, they overlap.
Right.
I'm sure we saw each other at some point.
There was a good 2 years after college where it was Ellicott City every night.
Yeah.
Every single night we were down there, and it was just a different place. Because they even had
before the floods. We were talking about that.
Well, yeah, on Wednesday nights, if you remember,
it was White Girl Wednesdays.
Lined up all of the drink specials, so you would just go from bar to bar, and you would end up eventually at Lapa's, where everyone was just super drunk and dancing, and they kind of set it up.
The music was way too loud at Lapa's.
Yeah,
I hated it.
I don't like their dress code. I thought it was a little ridiculous.
There was a dress code?
Lapa's. Yeah, you couldn't wear a hoodie. You couldn't wear PJs. You couldn't wear sweatpants. You couldn't wear hats.
I don't remember.
I would never wear any of those things. So
I'm wearing sweatpants right now. So I don't think I own jeans. So I didn't really.
In my older age, I do prefer gym clothes.
Yeah.
But in those days, I wouldn't go out in public if I wasn't in jeans at the minimum. Yeah. I would rather be dressed up.
And they were designer jeans, I'm sure.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. That's what I would spend my money on, was booze and clothes.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I go for kind of that bohemian homeless look.
Right.
So,
You've nailed it for a long time, Eric. So anyway, all right, back to it.
Yeah, so the weed turned into drinking, and then the drinking turned into DUIs.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was driving from Eldersburg from Columbia to Eldersburg.
So you were still living in Eldersburg?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. I was drunk off my ass, and I would be driving home.
On 70 and 32 and shit? You weren't taking
you're asking for
a DUI.
No.
So there's a way, to get from Columbia, that you can take, there's a back way that takes you to Centennial, go on 40 for a minute, which is fine, and then Marriottsville. So I would do that when I was super drunk.
Yeah.
But then, whatever. Not all of them were from Columbia. My first DUI.
Wait, how many do you have?
4.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. It took me a while to learn. The first one, I went to a bar in Baltimore City. I had a place to stay. Was gonna spend the night at my friend's house. Woke up in the back of a police car, out of a blackout. I was driving down 70, going 20 miles an hour in the fast lane. No clue how I got there. Yeah. The cop was super nice. I was in Frederick. I passed Edwardsburg.
Oh, dude.
Right. Because I was gone. I was obliterated. And someone probably called the cops and was there's someone driving 20 on 70.
Which is terrifying.
And they're how much did you have to drink? I said 1 beer, obviously.
Yeah.
And they're where are you going? Oh, I'm going to see it was my ex-boyfriend. I'm going to see him. He lives off 95. And they're you're in Frederick on 70.
You're almost at 270.
Oh. Yeah. Oopsies. So the cop let me sit in the front seat. He was very nice.
Really?
It was
God, awesome.
Yeah, it was very slap on the wrist kind of thing. The whole process, I got probation again because I think I was off of it from the weed charge by then. And it was whatever, no big deal.
What year was that then, out of curiosity?
Math is hard. I was 21-ish. I don't know, 2007 or 8.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm just thinking because drinking and driving has evolved as like,
right.
with, like where it's like it was just a slap on the wrist. Like you're kind of like out in Frederick County.
Oh,
and
now,
I can see
nowadays
how like
you're
as
doing...
you get closer to like Baltimore, it probably gets way worse.
Right.
And as you collect, you know, your DUIs.
Right. Yeah. So the next one was coming back from a football game. I went to the the Redskins, whatever, Commanders, whatever they're called now, but at that time it was Redskins. I mean, I drank a 30-pack.
Yeah.
Yep.
Walking from the car to the stadium, basically. I remember 0 of the game.
Yeah.
Drove all the way home, and I was like a mile and a half from my house. And I was like going 90 on Liberty Road, which is like a 50.
Yeah.
Got pulled over, second DUI. Third DUI was sitting in my car crying. Don't remember why. In my neighborhood. I was drunk in my neighborhood crying, and my car was on, and a cop could see me from Liberty Road because the road was kind of next to the Liberty Road. He saw me, came to see why a car was stopped in third DUI.
You know, if you moved to the passenger seat, you wouldn't have gotten a DUI.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because I had a friend at Sam Goody who came in one morning from a DUI, and he had passed out in his car. He was like, "I'm just going to take this, sleep a little bit."
Mm-hmm.
But his car was on.
If you weren't moving, like that's kind of a dick move by the cop.
Yeah.
It doesn't,
hey, make a call, like get out of here.
It sucks, but you have to get in the other seat. As weird as that rule is, like you have to move.
And you just take your keys and you just throw them in like as far back as you can.
Right.
Anyway,
I know.
So that's 3.
I wish I would have known, but whatever.
Yeah.
Things happen for a reason. Mm-hmm. And then the fourth was coming back from a party in Colombia with my, work friends. They hid my keys in the stupidest place. Like, where do you hide keys? Like the freezer. That's where everyone hides keys, is the freezer.
Really?
Wait.
I don't know.
Is that a thing?
So wait, you worked at the Cheesecake Factory in Colombia.
Yeah.
Did you know a girl named Shayla?
Shayla.
Wait, did you party with us, Ben?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I do know a girl named Shay.
Did you know someone named Fammy?
Because she worked.
Fammy?
Did you know Fammy?
Yeah.
Really? Huge parties. Has a sister named Tara.
I think so.
Yeah, we probably knew each other.
Right.
Yeah, because Shayla worked at Cheesecake Factory in Colombia.
You worked there like 2006, 2007?
Say that again?
You worked there around 2006, 2007? Because that's when I worked at the Goody.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you know Jonah?
Jonah.
He went to Centennial.
This is really crazy. Anyway, we're getting way off topic.
Well, if he knew Fammy, then he knows Shayla, then he knows Anton, then he knows all the other connections.
We could have partied
together.
Old Ellicott City,
we literally could have been in a
other
party together.
Right.
That's crazy.
I mean, I would just end up at random places. I mean, that was a common occurrence.
That was a common thing where it's like, where are we?
We're just like at a house in Ellicott City, and I'm like, okay, whatever. There's drugs here.
Yeah,
Let's
there's drugs
do them.
and alcohol. Yeah.
So the fourth one, I got pulled over on 29. It was...
How long was that span of the DUIs?
Okay, so 1, 2, and 3 happened at 21, 22, 23.
Oh my
wow.
God,
right,
dude.
back to back to back. And then I got a blow and go for 3 years. Mm-hmm. So then I didn't get a DUI for 3 years.
Okay.
And then the second I got the blow and go off, that was number 4.
Yeah.
Did you get jail time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I got clean, basically, was because of jail. But so through the DUIs and stuff, obviously after 1, 2, and 3, I really continued to drink and try to smoke weed. I would do Ready Clean, whatever. And then...
Did that work, the Ready Clean?
I never popped...
I sold tons of it at Record and Tape Traders.
Yeah,
I
never popped dirty. But at that point, I was like soaking wet, like 150 pounds at 6'3", like 6'2", 6'3".
And drinking that much?
Yeah, because I would just drink and I would throw up. Yeah. Like the next morning, I would just puke all of the food.
And you're not really eating because you're really more worried about drinking.
And I didn't want
a liquor diet more than a beer diet?
Right. Oh, yeah. No, I did not care for beer because of all those calories.
Yeah.
I would drink vodka sodas, like the gayest, healthiest, quote unquote, drink you can, I mean, is before the White Claws. You know, I missed the White Claw era.
We all missed that era, thank God.
The seltzer era, yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's terrible.
Right. So I got lost. Oh, so after the third DUI, the blow and go was on the car. So there went my fun. You know, I couldn't drink and drive anymore. So a friend introduced me to pills, you know, and I had my wisdom teeth out around 22-ish, and I got, you know, Vicodin or whatever, and those were great. I had a lovely time with that because I would drink on them.
Oh, yeah.
And I wouldn't have a hangover. I would feel great. I loved them. So, you know, I was just introduced to the pills, and then, you know, the pills turned into oxys, and, you know...
That's our
I kind of fell into that. You know, I've been watching all these documentaries, Painkiller, and the other one about the oxy epidemic.
Purdue.
Right, Purdue, yeah. So I was a innocent bystander of the Oxycontin thing. And
that's our whole generation.
Right, so that's what I did for those 3 years when I couldn't drink and drive. I would still drink when I could, because that's what I really wanted to do. But I would, you know, get oxys, and I would just take them to work and just a little bit off at a time, and like whatever. Never really developed a habit somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, I was doing oxys pretty much every day for years, but when I quit, because I got the blow and go off and I could drink again, I literally just quit. Well, I mean, before that, once the oxys became uncrushable.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden Oxy 80s went from like $80, $100 to like 20. And I'm like, what the fuck? What is this?
Yeah.
And then I tried to crush it, and I was like, what's happening? Why can't I snort this anymore? Oh, it's fine. You just have to swallow them. I'm like, no, I don't want to swallow them. I want to snort them. So there went that. So then my friend from work introduced me to heroin.
Yep.
I was like, is that really what's happening right now?
Yeah.
And it was.
Hey, that shame wears off real quick.
It did.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Right. I mean,
I'm being honest.
Right.
It doesn't stay around very
right.
long.
I've been doing oxys for how long? Okay. It was just the next.
Yeah. Next logical
And it's a lot
step.
cheaper too. I can get a lot more heroin.
Oh yeah. It was way cheaper. I mean, I had already tried it a few times with a friend, and I remember the first time I did it, I did the littlest, tiniest, insiest amount, and I was fucked. I was puking. I couldn't move without puking. I would just have to lay there like this. And then if I like moved like this, I was like, ugh, gotta throw up.
Vomit.
But I got better at it. I could time. I was doing it at the restaurant. And I would just do a little bit and then take a drink order, go to the bathroom, puke, get the drinks, bring them out to them. Like
always puked?
Always puked. It was like a timed puke. Like I just knew I had this long after I did it before I was going to puke. And then,
That is weird.
Anybody listening, this is the insanity of addiction.
Right. Yeah.
I got to puke. So hold on.
Exactly.
Let me do this little bump.
But I got their drink
I
order.
got the drink
and,
order.
Yeah.
I'm going to vomit, grab the drinks, go back.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's wild,
I had
dude.
mints in my pocket for all the puking. I mean, I was ready, and it's crazy because I built my lifestyle around drugs. Like I would work the night shift at a restaurant because that means I could
the restaurant industry.
I could make money, I could have cash, I would spend it on drugs and alcohol, go to sleep, wake up at 2 in the afternoon to do it all over again.
Well, you are right about the like opiate thing though, and puking. It is very like normalized.
Right.
When you're an opiate addict and of any kind, you're just like, oh, hold on, I just got like, and it's just like, okay, I'm better. All right, let's go.
Right. Yeah.
So that is kind of normal, but every time is wild. Dude.
Yeah.
That's why.
I just didn't. It just wasn't. It just wasn't for me. Like I never built up the tolerance that other people did.
Your body was trying to tell you something that you weren't listening to.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, I did it for a while, but then, like I said, once the blow and go came off and I could drink and drive again, I was gonna do that. Like
So
I was
are you
done
an
probation.
alcoholic, would you say? Like
No, I'm an addict because it wasn't the alcohol necessarily. It just. I liked the way that specific drug made me feel. I mean, I'm full-blown Narcotics Anonymous that alcohol is a drug.
No, yeah. Well, we'll dive into that later. I definitely have questions about
Yeah. So, once I could do that again, I drank, and then obviously I got my last DUI. So that landed me. The judge saw right through my like little innocent like baby face and was like, this is your 4th DUI. Like, you're going to jail. Yeah. So I forget how long the actual sentence was. It was like 60, 90 days or something. But I had a lawyer and she got me to go to rehab instead. Mm-hmm. So we like went back in front of the judge 2 weeks later. So I spent 2 weeks in jail in Jessup.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Which isn't that bad.
I don't know. I mean, it's prison.
Yeah,
but the
so you weren't in like HCDC, you were in Jessup.
Yeah, I was in prison.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah. But this lady was like, she saw me and I was just like, you know, this little skinny white blonde kid, like probably shivering from fear. And she was like, are you okay? And I'm like, no. And she's like, I got you. So she put me in a single cell, which I was with like the murderers and the insane people, but I was alone in my cell. So I didn't come out. I mean, I ate nothing. Like, I ate enough to stay alive.
Yeah.
Like,
the food is bad.
Right. I mean, I just laid there and I just slept for 20 hours a day. Sometimes they would make me come out of my room to eat, and I would eat barely anything, like a piece of bread, and like I would drink the fruit cup water and then the milk because I needed liquids. Yeah. Because I was so thirsty. And then I would just wait until they would open up the door again, the cell doors, and I would go back into my cell, and then I would lay there. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what I did for 2 weeks. Just like...
It's like a detox.
Right. Just contemplating death. And I probably was, and I just didn't know it. I mean, I don't think I'd been drinking long enough at that point to build up a physical, like, whatever tolerance to alcohol. Mm-hmm. I was probably drinking every day, but like...
Well, maybe just everything.
It just was so quick after I got the blow and go off that it hadn't been more than a few months. So, but yeah, I was just dead, you know, just a zombie. Just people thought I was crazy too and whatever. So when I was in there, one of my friends who I'd used with in the past, I would talk to my mom every day, like a little mama's boy, but who else was I going to call?
Yeah.
And she told me that she died from an overdose, from a heroin overdose.
Wait, who died?
My friend. So, okay. I mean, she was very smart. She went to go finish her doctorate. She was going to be a doctor. Ugh. She went to California to finish her doctorate, and they didn't hear from her forever. So her family, was best friends with all 3 kids. There's 3 kids, and they were my people, using, not using. They were always my friends. So they found her in a room, OD'd. So I was like, fuck, you know, like that was like the earth shaking kind of like thing. Like, let's forget that I was in jail, but like that was like the thing that was like the catalyst for like, she's a doctor. She like wrote a book and has it published in libraries, and she's so smart and like personable and beautiful and friendly, and she died. Like, why do I think that my miserable ass is going to survive this?
Yeah.
So, you know, that was my first step, and I prayed to her because I didn't have a relationship with God at that point. So I was just like, if you're up there, like, I need help. I can't do this alone. I don't know how.
Yeah.
So luckily then I got out of jail to go to rehab, and I went to a 28-day inpatient, you know, typical rehab. It's called Right Turn. It was in a lot of people have heard of it. I was like an old house in Pikesville, and I mean the H&I was just, that's what did it for me, you know. Like that's where I saw the hope, and the people in there that were like, some of them were veterans at like recovery, like this was their 4th or 5th stint, you know, because I've been introduced to the rooms through the jail. I mean, through like courts.
DUIs.
Like I had to go to meetings through.
Yeah, you were on a court slip for probably at least 3 years.
Right, even more. I mean, yeah, for a while I was on court slips, so I had experience with it. But you know, I typically I mean, I just didn't listen. I was going to AA meetings in my area, and like nothing against AA, it's great, but it's just in my area of Eldersburg, it was just a bunch of old white guys that sat on a bar stool for 40 years and got cirrhosis. And it just wasn't my story. Like they weren't partying, they didn't have DUIs, they weren't doing drugs. Like it just, I couldn't relate. So then I would hear these NA speakers come in and be like, oh, yeah, that's it. That's what I've been doing. That's where the cool kids are. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty much how I got introduced to NA. And my first sponsor was someone that came in for H&I, and she her name's Brandy I.
Okay.
She went to that Hannamore meeting that we were talking about. Yeah. And the attitude of gratitude and all that.
All the
I know who
Northwest meetings.
Right. So she
told
first
sponsor was a woman.
All of my sponsors have been women.
Interesting. Fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, she told my story. She talked a lot about drinking like I did, but the drugs sprinkled in there like me, and I could just relate so much with her. And she saw me. Like after the meeting, she was like, she could see that I was standing. All the girls like swamped to her because she was vibrant and she was talkative and like cussed and was like so cool. Like everyone wanted to be her friend, and she like saw me from like across the room and was like, "What's your deal? What are you?" So I got her number. She told me to meet her at a meeting when I got out, and I went to that meeting. And like a few weeks later, probably into the process, I asked her to be my sponsor. And, I went to, the second I got out of rehab, I went to Attitude of Gratitude. Yep. It was a giant meeting. It was this woman's, 25th anniversary.
Terrifying meeting.
And and a going away party. She was moving to North Carolina. Her name's Jan. She has,
I've heard
she was Janet's sponsor.
Yes. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, it was her like going away party plus 20 something anniversary.
That's terrifying, dude.
And it was, there was like 100 people there. And I just like walked up and was like, and my now friend Emily B was best friends with Brandy.
Listen to her podcast. It's fantastic.
Oh, she did it?
Oh, yeah, she did it.
I remember that.
Oh, fun.
Yeah,
I'll definitely listen to that. She like ran up to me and was like, and I'm like,
that's
okay. I'm coming. And like, it was just a whole bunch of people. Yeah. But I went and I sat on the floor in the front so that I could everyone was like, sit in the front. And I was like, there's no chairs left. Sit on the floor. And I'm like, okay.
Is that what they...
Yep. That's it.
Right. There was standing room only at this point.
Yeah.
There was generations and generations of addicts.
Yeah.
It's amazing you stayed, dude. I would have
Well, you're also like a lighthouse keeper.
That's true. That's true. I wouldn't mind being a lighthouse keeper, actually.
I am very much a people person. So it was overwhelming though. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But, I just kept going, it was I didn't have a license for my first year. So it was a mixture of AA and NA because AA was in Eldersburg. There was only, I think, one NA meeting in Eldersburg at the time. And then, I would just, whatever I could. I switched my Cheesecake Factory schedule to mornings only so that I could go to the meetings at night, which I was still making decent money because I wasn't spending it. Yeah. I wasn't spending it on drugs anymore. So
yeah, it's an automatic pay raise.
I survived, right. I could survive with just working the lunch shift. And I just went to meetings every day. The weekends, it was like, we'd do a nooner and then we'd come down here because there was like an 8 o'clock and then like a midnight.
Yep. Yeah.
There was the 7 o'clock.
Maybe it was Saturdays.
Saturday had the 7 o'clock, which is still big, right, David?
Yeah.
Let Go and Let God. And then you would go to like all the Howard County meetings and have like the Serenity Center and all that stuff.
Right.
And in those early years, Attitude of Gratitude was such a scene.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, and that was my home group, my first home group, obviously, because that's every newcomer's first home group.
What day is Attitude of Gratitude?
Saturday night.
That was a Saturday night.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that Finksburg?
Yeah.
Okay.
I might do that tonight. That might be a thing.
Oh, yeah. You should. I will not be there. And you would go out to eat to Applebee's every night after. Yeah. I mean, not every night, but after that. And then after my home group, on my second home group on Thursday nights, we'd go to Denny's afterwards. Like there was always a thing. Yeah. We would stay up late. We would talk about life. We would chain smoke cigarettes. Oh, yeah. We would drink energy drinks and we just fucking stay clean, you know? Like that was just day after day. Yeah. We'd go to meetings and we'd just fucking stay clean. Yeah. I mean, that was year one, you know, like that's what I did. And it was great. I mean, I was definitely riding the pink cloud. I feel very sorry for people that didn't have one.
Dude, me too.
I felt like $1 million. I
loved it.
My first year anniversary was like the coolest thing ever. It was like standing room only, like the applause, like a rush of applause when you go to speak was like deafening to me, you know, like it was just the coolest thing ever, and that helped me stay clean for probably a couple years. Like just from that high alone was like, that's what did it. So right after year one, I switched sponsors to a different woman. It was very God-centered. She was very God-centered, and the thought was just, it had to be of God. Because I barely knew her, but I just knew that she was just such this like radiant person. Her name was Nicole. I'm sure you know Nicole. Probably. Nicole W. Her husband was from this area, Rick W. So she was just this loving, super Christian person, you know, like, so I was very like, okay, this is the direction I wanted to go in. So I did, and I, you know, at that point I had to start the steps over because, like, backtracking a little bit, my 1, 2, and 3, the first time I worked it, I used Xena, the warrior princess, as my higher power.
That's awesome. That's a badass higher power.
Right. What? That is amazing.
Why not? Because I was raised Catholic. I'm gay, you know, like I just couldn't, you know, like there was too much
Xena is totally fine. Right. There's no justification of why Xena is your higher power.
Yeah.
No justification needed.
She's badass.
It's Lucy Lawless. Good Lord.
So I worked 1, 2, and 3 again with my new sponsor, who was a Christian. So then I was able to kind of like have a more comfortable relationship with using God instead of Xena. You know, like saying the word God, I didn't shudder. And then through the process of working the steps with her, being very enmeshed in her life, like I was in her back pocket. I would go to Sunday dinner with her and her family. I would pick up her kids. I was there. I was part of her life. I was part of her family, whether she liked it or not. So eventually I started going to church with her, and it was a good experience for the most part. At first, I could really feel a connection with God. It really helped me break down the resentments, break down the wall between me and God. Just really helped me like feel more comfortable with that aspect of my life, my spirituality, you know? So then kind of all in a very short span of time, the church, I got baptized as a Christian, and then it was a big mega church, like with big screen TVs and like all that.
Televangelist type church?
Yeah. So you like recorded your story on a little thing, and they would play it as you were like walking to the hot tub. Oh wow! And it was very like theatrical,
like a gemstone type situation.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, not to that scale because it was in Finksburg, Maryland, not Texas.
Yeah, not Texas.
But same premise, right? Like they might not have like the best looking hot tub here, you know, but they have a hot tub and they're going to make it look nice.
It did look nice. Yeah. So in my story, you know, I said that I was gay and that was something that I was proud to be and like whatever. And then the senior pastor wanted to take me out to lunch because he was interested in my story. And then told me that he needed to take that out because it made all the elders in the church angry. And like, how does it make you feel that you can never be intimate with a partner and you can never get married and you can never be in love because you're this sinner? So
he said that to you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fuck that dude.
Yeah. So that was pretty much it for religion.
Good.
Yeah. It took a little bit longer for me to really get out of it, but then that sponsor that I had become very enmeshed with was going through her own troubles and decided to drop all of her sponsees, and then ended up moving to Arizona. Her and her family moved to Arizona. She's from the West Coast, so that's where she wanted to be. Mm-hmm. That's where her family is. You know, so that's where she went.
They didn't like push conversion therapy on you or anything like that.
No. Okay. It was not. I mean, that would have never happened. Maybe if I had asked for help, maybe he would have offered it. But I was like stunned. I thought because I talked about drugs and stuff, and like I thought that's what he wanted to talk about, like about
we can't talk about drugs
helping with Celebrate Recovery or something, and being more active in the church. Not telling me we have to cut out parts of your story because you can't be proud to be gay because it's a sin and you can't be proud of that.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. So when she left, so I realized that, I had made her my higher power. Our relationship was too enmeshed. So I was devastated. Like, it was like my mother had just been like, peace out.
Yeah.
Goodbye. So that was like the darkest time in my recovery, which I'm honestly, like, as I look back and I've been around a long enough time to hear other people's dark times in their recovery.
Yeah.
And my dark time is pretty good, comparatively speaking. But at the moment, I hated NA because they had brought me this much pain, because they had given me someone that was so amazing and then taken it away. So fuck NA. God was like this evil whatever. I just didn't trust anyone anymore. Like, it was just, I hated everything. I was just a miserable sack of shit. But I still went to my home group.
Yeah.
Like, I just went to my one meeting a week. I stopped working steps because I didn't have a sponsor.
Is this like middle recovery, like right around like 5 years?
It was right after 3.
Okay. She
gave me my medallion for 3, and that was the last one that she ever gave me. So, yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it was like around 3 and 4 was when it happened. So, yeah, I was like done with NA pretty much. I mean, I would just go to meetings. Her sponsor then said that she would sponsor me. She lived in Las Vegas. So the time difference was
3 hours.
Yeah, not great, because she was an early person and I was a late night person. So there was like an hour window in between our busy schedules that we could speak. And so it didn't really happen, She's a wonderful woman. But I just didn't.
Yeah, it didn't work out.
I was not in the place to have a long distance sponsor at the time. Yeah. Like, I needed more than that. So I just, was cutting relationships, like me and one of my best friends, Yulia, like, she like sat me down and was like, what's going on with you? And I was just like, I don't know.
Yulia's been on the podcast too. Hers is fantastic.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know. I need to scroll through the list and see who else is on here.
We actually got her to speak some Russian on here just because I was curious. I was like, do you speak Russian? She was like, yeah. Right. I was like, say something.
I also think, like, for some reason we had like a bunch of different bilingual people on in a row too, for some reason.
Yeah, we did.
And we just kept it going.
Yeah,
it was like Russian, it was like French, it was like something else too.
Oh, Caroline?
We should. I do want Caroline on here.
Mm-hmm.
She'd be fantastic.
Yeah, she's fluent.
We've had Dara, Sabrina, Emily.
Oh yeah, I need to scroll through.
Sabrina's podcast.
I love Sabrina's podcast.
Really?
I didn't know Sabrina. I didn't know the thing about her teeth, dude. That's like fucking wild.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Hers was a crier.
Oh, it's amazing.
I've had Matt, Brady.
Like everyone.
Oh yeah, I've had everyone.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
And it's all fantastic. So
yeah, I love podcasts. I mean, I love music, but I love. I will listen to podcasts on my way to work and back and it's only like a 20-minute commute, so it's not like a lot, but like it's my choice of listening to things.
100%.
So, yeah, I'm gonna have to take a listen. So yeah, I was in my dark times, my dark era of recovery, and just really, I mean, but that's like what I really try to drive home to most people, is that I just kept coming back. I didn't do anything other than not pick up drugs, and I went to one meeting a week.
That's the only thing you got to do perfectly.
Right.
You got to do one thing.
Right. So I did do that perfectly, and honestly, like a CrossFit is what saved my life. Like I went to the 5:30 a.m. class. I discovered it right before this whole incident. So it was the reason I woke up in the morning. Like, it was the only thing that got me out of bed was like, okay, I have to go to the gym. Was it
Caroline that got you into it?
No, I was first. I got Caroline into first. It. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Me and my friend Ashley, I don't know her last name anymore, but was in recovery at the time.
Yeah. And then Molly
and Emily
Nathan,
did it.
And everybody did it.
Yeah. So I was the first. I was the OG CrossFitter of Narcotics Anonymous.
Okay.
I brought everyone else in to the other cult. I'm like, come on, I have another cult over here you can join.
You guys want to get real into fitness and like protein shakes?
Right. I found out that Jenny, that my old boss, was like, you're really susceptible to cults, aren't you? Because I was in NA, I was in CrossFit, and at that time I was in church.
Well, you got into church
I was like,
too, right?
I was like one of the raise hands during worship song people.
Wow.
I was doing Bible studies. I was in the cults. I'm very susceptible. So like, keep me away from like the Mormons and the Waco people, right? Jehovah's Witnesses, because they'll sign me right up. I'll be like, where do I sign?
They're like, do you want a better life? You're like, I do.
I do
want a better life.
Right. That sounds fun. Sign me up.
Yeah. Just stay away from the Scientologists. They're the worst.
Right.
The worst.
Yeah. So luckily the gym was there to give me endorphins, and I'd wake up and do a really hard thing and then be like, okay, I guess I can survive the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So then I would survive the rest of the day, and that's just what I did for probably a couple years. It was funny. I remember my 4-year anniversary, like I shared that I had figured myself out, that I knew myself so well. And this old timer shared like, just wait. Because in a few years, you're going to have no idea. And I was so pissed. I was like, that bitch.
Yeah.
She does not know. How old was I?
Yeah.
Early 30s.
Early 30s.
30, 31, 32.
Oh,
Yeah. So I was so angry. And then like looking back, I'm like, oh, that's hilarious. Because I definitely have like figured myself out and then lost myself like 4,700 times since then.
100%.
Right.
Yep.
So eventually I, couldn't deal with the sponsor living in Vegas anymore.
Oh, wow.
I was sitting
you still had that sponsor?
for a year. Yeah. Okay. So Emily ended up giving me my medallion for 4 years because obviously the woman in Las Vegas was not going to fly in.
I'm pretty sure
it was at Will to Survive. That was I worked in Towson, so that was my weird stint of having a Towson home group. Okay. Yeah, it was a weird time. Just in general in my life.
Every time around Towson is weird.
Towson's a weird place, man.
Right. It is. But through that time, I was working at Mark and would sit on my friend Rachel M's couch every day, who was a therapist there. And then one day I was just like, why don't you be my sponsor?
She an addict?
Yeah, Rachel?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Duh. Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, so I was just, yeah. I was just sitting there and was like, you should just be my sponsor. And she's like, okay. So then it was like, it was like light bulb went off. Like, she's a lesbian, I'm gay. It's like so perfect.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, it was right in front of me this whole time. And it's when it kind of restarted my recovery, like it was a slow process because I was still very jaded and like, I hold on to resentments until they're ground to a pulp, until I'm digging into my own hand and hurting myself, like that's how long I hold on to resentment. So
I feel you on that with NA, man. Yeah.
Right. So there was definitely a lot of pain and shit that I had to work through. Thank God I had a therapist as a sponsor now.
Yes.
So it definitely it definitely turned everything around. And I mean, like, pieces just started to fall into place a lot better, like eventually got a new job working for a corporate addiction treatment center, restarted the steps, dove into, I was halfway through 4 when I stopped. So like really a bad place to stop.
Yeah.
For years, like I stopped for years.
That's,
and then
the only worst place is like 6.
Right.
If you were at 6 for years, you'd just probably be like, you'd just
be a dick.
I did stop. I mean, I didn't stop, but it took me years to do 6.
What?
because
That's
I was
awful, dude.
Hey, if you wait, you can hold on to your character defects.
Exactly.
Well, they don't go anywhere. They're always a part of you. Okay, so
No, that's not a thing.
That
At
is a
7,
thing.
God takes them away.
That's not how that
Right.
works.
God took them.
You're right. They're going
man.
now.
Oh, that's rough, dude. Like you're just sitting in that shit,
Right.
you know?
And I did. Yeah, I just sat in it. Going into a new job in corporate addict land. It was just a crazy fucking place to work.
Yeah.
Like they were trying to be corporate America, but it was ran by addicts, and all the addicts work there. Like they would just like find all the addicts in the area and just be like, come and work here, and then be like, okay, none of you are right for the job, please leave.
That's what it seemed like. Because it seemed like a lot of you guys would get hired as techs, but then it would like be like, okay, we're going over here now. And I'm like, what?
Right.
Wait, I thought you were working at this rehab. And it's
Right.
like, no, not anymore. We work at this rehab.
Right. Yeah, that's what it was like. It was just utter chaos. There was no job security. It felt insane all the time. I was traveling for work for the first time ever because they owned treatment centers in Texas, New Hampshire, Ohio, Florida, Georgia. So I was doing compliance. So I was traveling to these centers, getting them certified, like just bopping all over the place. It was just a whirlwind of a life. I went from like being a tech at one rehab to now being in this corporate job where I'm flying.
So, okay, I've been in the corporate world for a while. How did you enjoy that? Or did you not enjoy that?
Traveling?
The traveling.
I love traveling.
It's great, right?
I do, yeah.
It's lovely.
Right. It is lovely.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of traveling. I wish I could do it more for the current job that I have, but also not. You know, like there's kind of like
there's a balance.
At that age, when I had no relationship, I had no responsibilities. My only thing I wanted to do every day was work out, which I couldn't do. Actually, I did. I mean, I would drop into CrossFit gyms.
Oh, you did it
in different wherever I would travel to, and like
that's good, dude.
Sometimes work out at the gym, like in the whatever.
Didn't
the hotel.
you and Yulia go to Rio for a world convention?
No, that was Emily.
Oh, that was Emily.
I went to the
World?
Florida. I went to Florida World.
I don't know why we didn't go to Philly World ever. Or did you guys go to Philly?
I missed Philly.
It happened in August, the year I got clean. I got clean in July, and it happened in like August. So I went to Attitude of Gratitude. There was like 7 people there, and I was like, where the fuck is everyone? And they're like, they're in Philly for the World Convention. I'm like, what is a World Convention?
Yeah.
And
I was early in recovery too, and I missed it.
I was
but
too
DC
young.
is happening next year.
Yeah, I'm gonna go,
which is going to be super cool.
Yeah,
I'm excited for that.
I'm a little disappointed that it's in DC. I would rather go somewhere.
No,
I'd rather
know.
have a reason. Like for the Florida one, me and Yulia went. We stayed with my friend in Orlando. We went to Disney World, and we went to Orlando, and then we went to the convention. Like. It was a great vacation.
That's amazing.
Oh, it was in Orlando?
Yeah.
What a great place.
No, it was in Fort Lauderdale or Miami or something.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't remember which.
Those places are great too.
Right.
Yeah.
It was in the southern Florida, but we just wanted to make, a long trip out of it.
Corporate.
Yeah. Oh yeah, corporate. Yeah, it was rough. Like I learned a whole bunch. I heard, and I made a lot of connections. Those people from corporate are who I work with today. It was like one guy took all the best people out of that company. I mean, I got laid off because they started just like losing money. So I got laid off, was unemployed during COVID for 3 months. I mean, it was honestly a blessing because the unemployment was high.
Yeah.
Like I was fine.
Yeah.
Like I was making fine money on unemployment.
So how much? So I wasn't unemployed, but I know people like did get good unemployment checks. Like, what was your unemployment?
I think it was like $800 a week.
Holy shit!
Like it's typically $400 a week.
Yeah.
But during COVID, they doubled it, and it was like $800 a week plus the stimulus checks.
Yeah.
Which really helped. So I like went to Florida, I think 2 or 3 times. Like I was like bopping around, like having a great time. Unemployed. I mean, not really. I was spiraling because I need things to do and I need purpose. And once I get stagnant in a bed, I will lay there and I will not move. I will binge a whole show in a matter of moments. It felt like, and it wasn't great, but it was great. Like there was really great perks to it.
Favorite show you've binged?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I could just pick one show.
You gotta pick one.
I don't know.
Favorite binge show, Eric?
Well, what do you mean by that?
I just pick one right off the top of your head.
Probably Community.
Okay.
Would be my favorite binge show.
I've never heard of it.
I've seen it so many times. Community?
Yeah.
The sitcom? Dan Harmon?
Yeah.
Have you seen Rick and Morty? Or
I have seen Rick and Morty.
He created Community. And it's like Joel McHale and like Joel McHale's the main guy.
I just went through Schitt's Creek for the third time, and I love that show.
Oh, yeah.
It's fantastic.
I've only gone through that once.
Do it again.
I think I can
good.
wait a little while. I still have so many new shows to watch.
I know.
They know.
There's too much.
I don't have enough time now with like work and a kid and like all that shit. You know.
All right, we digress.
That's
All right.
Yeah. So corporate.
Eventually
you're becoming
ended.
like a white collar human being.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it was taken away from me. I worked in a real estate for a minute because
As a seller?
no.
Okay.
As a real estate assistant, a real estater's assistant. He was my friend from Cheesecake Factory.
Nice.
And he
Full circle.
just was like, hey, you need a job. I need someone to like post about listings and like fill out contract paperwork. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then eventually a compliance officer at a rehab position came along. So I left that to do that. And then eventually my friend who started this billing company suggested that I come work with her. And then I did that because the rehab was in Glen Burnie and then the new job was in Westminster, which is 20 minutes from my house. And it was all my best friends who worked there. So it just kind of was
You're still in
a good fit.
dude?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, and like I lived in Finksburg for a little bit. I lived in Westminster for a little bit. Pittsburgh, obviously, for a little bit. And there's just nowhere in Maryland that I'd rather live. I mean, my gym and my community are in Eldersburg. My meetings are in Westminster. My job's in Westminster. Like, you know, like I don't, there's just nowhere. Yeah. If I'm going to live in Maryland, I'm going to live in Eldersburg because I just feel comfortable there. I mean, you know, I know that you should go out and explore and find whatever, but like I do that. Like I travel all the time whenever I can. You know, I'm just, let's get in the car and let's go to DC. Let's go to Baltimore. Let's go to, you know, St. Martin's. Let's go to Puerto Rico. That's where I just went on a cruise, you know, and like I see the world still, but I want to come home to like somewhere where I feel comfortable. And
I can completely relate because I live 2 blocks from where I grew up.
Yeah.
So, and I moved to Eldersburg. I lived there for like a year. I lived in the city for a few years. I lived in Chicago. But like, there's something about home.
Yeah.
Love Maryland.
At this current moment, I'm a street over from the house I grew up in.
See?
Because my parents sold their house, moved to Texas, and then some friends from my gym, they're very Republican.
Where in Texas, though? Somewhere cool or somewhere
Waco.
shitty?
Oh.
Well,
Yeah.
that doesn't have a very good...
Not a good reputation.
Not a good reputation. But it is actually like a cute town. It's kind of reminds me of Frederick-esque or like Ellicott City, like very like oldie historic buildings, but they've been turned into like these hipstery kind of like food markets and shops.
There is a low-key hipster movement in Texas that nobody who's like
if you've
real
been to
Texan
Austin,
wants to.
Right.
Like, I mean, Austin's freaking awesome, dude.
Austin is
I love
wonderful.
Austin.
Since my parents live there now, I've done the tour of Texas.
Have you done San Antonio?
No, that's
Like,
the only
dude,
one yet.
so
'Cause
underrated.
It's the farthest one from Waco. So
So underrated.
Waco's what, northeast Texas?
yeah,
It's above
pretty
Dallas,
much in the
right?
middle. It's kind of like like Houston. It's like in between Houston and Dallas, and then Austin's like next to it. So it kind of like is kind of like
It's in the
middle
triangle
of
of the
like
big
Houston,
three.
Dallas, and Austin.
Yeah, because
so,
those are the big three.
But
for
then San Antonio's
San
like
Antonio's
past
cool, dude.
Austin.
It's
I know.
pretty
I'm
cool.
gonna. I mean, I want to do it. It's just kind of like we're gonna have to get a room there.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like a 3 or 4 hour drive from Waco, so I'm not driving there and back in one day.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I mean, and you bring up my parents, and they, you know, they were very conservative Republicans. Grew up Christian, you know, so I didn't come out to them till I was 21, and that's because they found my weed, and we got in a huge fight.
Were they receptive or not very?
No, not really. So they were yelling at me about the drugs, and then it just was this massive fight. And I had my best friend, she would spend the night with me all the time because we'd just like get high and pass out in my bed. And she was like, it's inappropriate that you have girls spending the night. And then I was like, I'm gay. Yeah. My mom cried. My dad didn't speak to me for a while. Eventually he came around and was some lesbians that went to his Republican meeting, told him that being gay wasn't like a choice. And so then he was like, okay, since these like hot lesbians told him it was okay. So he decided it was okay.
That's like when like my dad.
That's the way you get through to a hetero male not understanding. Right. Send the hot lesbians.
Right.
No, but like my parents are very conservative, and like with like the funniest thing is like, would you rather be at Rehoboth where it's like nice and clean, or would you rather be at Ocean City? And my dad's like, I'd rather be at Rehoboth. Right. Like exactly. Blah blah blah. Even though they're gay, and it's like instead of the white trash, and it's just like wait. Right. Like, what? What are you talking about, dude? Like, that's so fucking weird. Like, why is it, like, they're just people? Right. Like, but because these lesbians said it, you're fine now.
Yeah, he was fine. Yeah, for the most part. I mean, it was very untalked about. We were very waspy kind of, like, people, and, like, we didn't talk about feelings a lot. There wasn't, like, I brought I love you into the family. Like, from Narcotics Anonymous. Like, I learned how to say
that.
What?
To your family.
Right. Exactly.
That's awful.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, like, if I said that to my parents, I think, like, somebody would explode.
Right. Exactly. That's kind of how it was, but I did it. I was the one, and now we say that...
You say
we say I love you. Yeah.
Weird.
Because
Absolutely.
I, learned that. I learned how to love in the rooms. I didn't learn that from family. That's not... No, but there was love, and there was...
Yeah, but if you're waspy, care of, then you guys are all waspy, and, like, you're kind of like, shh, get away from me.
Right.
But, like, saying I love you to your parents?
Right. Mm-hmm.
You're making me kind of throw up a little bit.
I know. So it happens. Sometimes you gotta throw up.
Sometimes you do have to throw up.
Right.
Well, we definitely have some questions for you. Eric, would you like to go first?
Sure.
All right, what you got?
I have so many questions, Ben.
Oh, good.
Where should I start? I'm gonna start with religion.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's just like... So you were brought up Christian or Catholic?
Catholic.
Oh. So you had communion, you had all that,
right?
Like whatever Catholic people do.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. You had your original sin, all that.
Right.
Oh God! So you have guilt, don't you?
Yes.
Built into your body.
Built into my DNA.
Are you a recovering Catholic as well?
Yeah. Because my wife has she was a Catholic and has that guilt just built in. I'm like, why do you feel this way? Mm-hmm. And like you guys are just programmed that way,
right.
kind of.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how is like that evolved? Because like you're saying, you're a Catholic when you're younger, and then you became like you hated God, which kind of like makes sense, and then like you became like an evangelist, which is weird because you've been baptized twice.
Right, I have been, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ooh,
yeah.
So what is it now?
So now I just believe in God as a higher power, not necessarily the Christian God, and not necessarily not the Christian God. It's just kind of like. I just have a relationship with God. I've felt God's like energy and power and whatever. Like I felt the presence of God and I've seen it, witnessed it in my life. So I can't turn my back on that.
Yeah.
But I cannot be involved with Christianity in 2023. Like the Christians that are living today, I cannot be associated with those people.
Yeah.
Not all of them. It's not a blanket statement.
It's not an individual thing.
But the way that Christians are acting right now, I cannot be associated with that anymore. Yeah. So I have turned my back basically on the religion, but me and God are still tight. Like I know that people are different than God, and Christianity is different than God. Yeah, they might not think that, but I know that. So I don't.
Because there's so much like negative connotation with like LGBT and all that when it comes to the church, and like you have like the people in the South who are kind of like these evangelist Baptist type people coming up,
right?
And like it has to be kind of scary, like that. What like their doctrine, they're kind of like spraying, and it's like, wait, what the fuck,
right?
Like so it's hard to kind of get past that, I guess,
right?
Like, and the fact that you went back to like religion, is absurd. Like that's wild.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was a crazy time. I just needed God so badly that I was willing to try anything, and that. That was the opportunity that was in front of me. And I do believe it happened for a reason. I think that God was like, this person, this sponsor is a safe way to lead you back to me.
You needed her, right?
I needed that guidance.
When you were telling your story, you made it sound like that. Like you wanted that community, that family, that love. Like that makes sense, dude. Like everyone wants that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was the family that I never... I mean, I had a family, I had parents, and it just wasn't this like...
Wasn't what you wanted. Though,
loving, like... affectionate household.
Yeah.
It was
it wasn't the piece of the puzzle that needed to be in place.
Right. Mm-hmm.
The saying I love you stuff, right? Like actually showing intimacy and like vulnerability in a family.
Mm-hmm. Right.
All right. So how did your, if at all, like did your sexuality play a part in your addiction, like that sort of feeling different, like?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is necessarily my sexuality. It was how I was treated because of my sexuality.
Yeah,
because I had been ridiculed and put down, and I just had this deep feeling of not being good enough and being less than that was like imprinted on my soul, basically.
Yeah.
I was trying to use every day to not feel like that, because when I was drunk on vodka, like I felt great and I felt myself, and I would dance and I would talk to people, and I had no fears. It took away all of that, all those insecurities that plagued me for my entire life at that point. You know, like I just was so filled with insecurities and anxiousness and depression and all of that, and just drugs were my fix. It was like I was medicating, you know, self-medicating until I, got the steps and I worked through it, and I got therapy and I got a sponsor that's a therapist, and I've done some fucking work, like I've had, and I'm still like, I'm flawed in it, like it's still those insecurities and those doubts, especially now being in a relationship. Like those doubts and insecurities are coming at me left and right when you like get into a new relationship, and they've been rearing their ugly head, but I have the tools now to like work through it. Fantastic. So thank God for that, right?
I want a 1B on that one, Eric. I'm following up. Because obviously there's been a massive change in the last 20 years.
Taking my fucking question, you asshole.
Yep, sorry. in the LGBTQ community,
right?
How do I word this?
It's the girl that we talked to. She worded it the best.
I know she did. It was Mackenzie. Yeah.
Yeah, Mackenzie, you're a bitch. I don't like you.
How good do you think it is that like how have you seen things change, and like how oh God, I am not wording this at all.
Okay, here, let me go put this dead dog down real quick. Okay, so
Jesus.
I mean, you were kind of ruining it. So,
I was
looking at how you're our age, right? So as we grew up, like being gay or being like a lesbian or being trans, or well, trans is like holy shit, you know? Like I remember the first
it was different. Yeah,
I remember the first time I'd bring my friends down like the Copycat building in the city. And they were all these like stoners, and like I remember the first time they saw a trans person, they were just like, whoa. Because it was like they walked in as a woman, came out of the bathroom as a man.
Right.
And to me and my one friend who were doing coke, we were just like, oh yeah, whatever. But to everyone else, they were like, what the fuck just happened? Right. But like now all that's different, right? The kids who are growing up today, they don't have to worry as much. Like being LGBT is like acceptable.
Right.
So the girl that we were just talking about, she was very resentful of the younger generation for having kind of that ease of coming into like who they are. Right. Like, how do you feel about that? Because you came in like you were. It was definitely not okay where it is now. Yeah. So like, how do you feel? Like,
I wouldn't say resentful, envious maybe is a better word to describe it for me. But like, I love it. I mean, I'm watching like Heartstop. It's on Netflix. It's about a gay couple in high school. Like, I love it that Glee, Glee had
Glee was big for this.
Right. And I not grew up because I was in my 20s watching it, but like, there was gay characters and there's so much gay representation in the media and online and everywhere that
and it's not stereotypical tropes either anymore like it used to be.
Right. They're all different walks of life, which we are all different walks of life.
Absolutely.
There's not just bottoms and tops, there's just not the jock and then the Twinkie belle, they come in all shapes and sizes and colors and it's represented in the media now. And it's incredible to see. And I teach a high school color guard, the high school that I graduated from. So, and I get to see these kids that are trans, that are gay, that are bi, and they're so comfortable.
Yeah.
And they express themselves. And they're just so, they're not happy because they're in high school and everyone's, it doesn't matter, but
they're still miserable
there's
teenagers.
so much freedom for them to be who they are now that the rest of their lives are going to be so much different than mine.
Yeah.
Because they are just set up to be themselves instead of having to hide themselves and change themselves based on who they're with. I'm still a chameleon.
That, right?
I have learned the chameleon skills that are still imprinted on me. When I'm around certain people, I am lower my voice, my hands come down, my mannerism changes. To this day, my parents, I am a different person around my parents because I've had to chameleonize, I don't know if that's a word, myself.
Yeah, we'll go with it.
For so long that's a natural instinct for me to change myself based on the if I'm with a boomer, I'm straight. If I'm with Gen Z or millennial, I'm gay. I've had to change myself. So these kids don't have to do that. They get to be themselves. And it's so great. I'm so happy for them.
Eric, that's the title. Being yourself and not the chameleon.
I'll just have being yourself.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Mm-hmm. Do you want to go? You got a question, Eric?
Yeah.
What you got?
So you stole my last question, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But
Great minds.
We'll
Great
talk
minds.
about NA resentment too. Right? You were talking kind of about the big resentment you had in NA at the time, which I think a lot of people get the NA resentment because you have that pink cloud, and then
this is a good question.
After the pink cloud, things kind of some people will drop off, some people will stay, and then people just start to kind of go into their lanes and start to become people again. But as all of that's kind of evolving and you're feeling more isolated, how did you kind of get over that resentment of people don't care about me or blah blah blah?
It was a slow and long process, and honestly I don't know that it's completely even gone yet. I'm not some of my friends when they speak, they start, I love Narcotics Anonymous. It saved my life. And I'm NA is great. It's really nice. You're not, by
the mercy of God and Narcotics Anonymous, I am clean today by baby Jesus.
Right. I am grateful that NA is existent, and I will do my part to make sure that NA continues to exist so that other people, and I will sponsor people. I will do my best, but I'm not a preacher of NA because NA is wonderful. NA is great. The people in NA are flawed and they're sick, and some are sicker than others. And, have faced a lot of different personalities, especially being gay and being the only gay and trying to have these gender roles pushed on me, as in,
you're supposed
men
to have
with
a
the
male,
men,
you're
women
supposed
with
to
the
have-
women. I've been told by boomers or the older generations, you need to have a male sponsor in case you have a male issue that comes along that a female doesn't understand. Well, it's been 10 years and I have not had one issue. I talked to my sponsor about sex. I talked to my sponsor about growing pains, about body ailments, everything. I trust my sponsor 100%.
Yeah.
So I don't give a fuck whether she has a vagina or a penis. It doesn't matter.
Well, what's this issue?
Exactly.
I'm
what
still
is that
waiting.
Issue? Yeah. I'm still waiting to see this man issue.
And I actually have just to weave my question in there is the importance of really sponsorship fluidity, just where you feel comfortable.
Right.
I don't think there's what I'm sort of answering Eric's question as well. I'm all about. I'm a thumper of recovery.
Right.
Not necessarily one thing or the other. Because
Right.
like through the podcast, we've talked to people in Celebrate Recovery,
Right.
Refuge Recovery,
Celebrate's cool.
Celebrate, Smart Recovery.
Right.
And there's all these different avenues, and I thump them all.
Right.
I'm like, whatever works for that person
Hell yeah.
is awesome. And like, yeah, for somebody like, and just like you said, people in NA are flawed because they think that one way is the way.
Right.
And it's not. That's not the fucking case. Like
Right.
People die
some
that
boomer
way.
saying
Right, exactly.
you have to have a male sponsor. Fuck you. Mind your business.
Right.
Like this is
Exactly.
my recovery, and this is what's helping me get another day clean, get
Right.
another year clean, and like that's so important. And it is changing slowly.
Right.
Like we're seeing it, and I'd love to see more like men have women sponsors and like stuff
Right.
like that because it's what works.
Right. And it's so twisted that they will push this man with men and women with women, and then they're like, oh, it's perfectly fine, and it's all because of sex. And then they'll be perfectly fine with me sponsoring a gay guy. Like,
But
why
that's
is that
not
okay?
Yeah,
that's
like,
not okay, right?
what's?
Like,
I mean, I do actually currently
it's
sponsor
okay,
a gay guy, but
like,
it
let's
should-
say
they
your
pushed
motives
it on
were
me.
wrong,
Right,
right? Let's say
exactly.
your motives were fucked and your
Right.
intentions were not good, and you're like, you know what? I'm just gonna sleep with this kid until like he can't,
Right.
take it anymore.
Yeah.
and it's like. What?
Right.
Because that's like their whole mindset. It's like, oh, you're just gonna have sex with that girl. It's like, why aren't you gonna have sex with that dude?
right.
Yeah.
Right. And this person was pushed upon me. I get pushed upon by people in
By
recovery.
guys.
They'll come into their treatment centers and they'll give them my phone number. Like, why are you giving them I don't want to talk to them.
Wait, people
They're
are
a new
giving your phone number out?
Right. I mean, they're my friends and they're allowed to. They own treatment centers and I'm on a list, but like they push me to the gay people towards me, which I'm like, this.
That's
like,
not necessarily the
right.
thing.
I don't think that I should be doing this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want them to fall in love with me. Like, I mean, I'm very happily in love with a very attractive
You
man.
are very lovable.
Well, I mean, not to toot my own horn, but like,
I was waiting for something there.
right. Like, I have a job and I work out and whatever. I take care of myself. So, like, I don't want to boost myself, but like, people could
Yeah, absolutely.
have feelings for me. Like, I don't think that I should.
Well, you're opening up a vulnerability and intimacy through sponsorship.
Right.
That like someone could mistake that
Right.
for
Right.
love
could- yeah, it
or
could-
like something different.
Right.
They're like, I don't understand what this is.
Right. And that's
You
the
know?
basis for men with the men, women with the women. I get it, but it's not the same anymore.
No, because
Life is
it
not
was
the world is not the same
Yeah,
as
it-
when these boomers created this.
it was created with a strictly hetero mindset.
Exactly.
And that like we're adding in a lot of different
Right.
things now. Like
Right.
the world is not what it was in the 50s when NA really
Right.
became a thing,
Right.
or the 30s when
AA,
AA became
yeah.
a thing. Like obviously gay people still existed, like trans
Right.
people still like existed back
Right.
then. It was just it wasn't talked about.
Right.
And it's great. Like it's amazing how much our society is changing.
Right.
But
And I think NA and all the recovery are changing too.
Absolutely.
It's just not quite happening as quickly as I would like.
Yes.
Like it's. I just think that
Well,
it's
because
kind
we
of
have the old-timers.
the old generation has to leave
They do.
for us to make it something better.
I think AA probably has the same problems too.
I bet that they
with
do.
their book, because like
Right.
that's like a whole nother. That's an issue I ask every person in AA. I'm just like, how do you feel about that chapter?
yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
The
You've never read the
big
big
book? The AA big book?
Like for the wives, like or those
It's-
sorts of sections. Just a lot of like sexism
There's a
and
lot of
stuff.
misogyny in it. Like,
Right. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, it was written 100 years ago.
Right.
Like
yeah.
the book is 100 years old.
Right.
Like you need to update this shit
Right.
a little
Think
bit.
about what the world was like 100 years ago.
Yeah,
Right.
the principles are still sound, but like a lot of the verbiage in there is really just questionable. And they have a chapter like, oh, for the wives, like you're supposed to have dinner ready for when your alcoholic husband comes home, and he's
Jesus.
yeah, literally.
And they keep that in that book?
Yes.
Yeah, but
why aren't the women angry?
They aren't, actually, which is crazy.
Some of them, like, some of them are, and they're just like, oh, like, it is like, what it is. I just kind of ignore that chapter.
You gotta read it for our time, and I'm like, well, but it says this.
Right.
But it says that,
well...
You can interpret it how you want.
I mean, the Bible says a lot of things too, and they still listen to it, so
I know.
They'd all be dead. Everyone in the world would be stoned by now if we listened to what the Bible said.
Oh, all three of us would have,
I'd be dead.
We'd be not crucified. The three of us, everyone in the world has worn clothing of mixed whatever, eaten shellfish.
Yeah.
Like,
are you eating a crab cake?
Right.
You're no.
Death immediately. Right.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah.
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
Working in recovery, how pros and cons? How rewarding has it been? How difficult has it been? Obviously, you're not like the tech level anymore.
Right. Thank God for that. So that's it. Like, working as a tech when I had 2 years clean was amazing. Mm-hmm. I felt wonderful. I felt like I was helping. I felt like I was giving back. And then as the years progressed, I got burnt out. Mm-hmm. My whole life was recovery. Like, I was always talking about recovery. I started to feel like a glorified babysitter, mm-hmm. which you were. You're just trying to make sure they didn't get high and they didn't have sex because it was a mixed house of men and women. And we failed over and over again. Like, you cannot stop addicts from using and having sex. You fucking can't.
Nope.
Unless you lock them up.
Yeah.
And
chain them to a radiator.
They'll find a way.
They're going to figure it out.
Cut holes through the wall and they'll still fuck each other. Like, they will
That's
find
where the
a way.
glory hole came from, right? Yeah.
Right, from rehabs. So it just got to a point where it just wasn't fulfilling anymore. Mm-hmm. It was painful. It was whatever. So then I took a step into the same rehab. I was doing medical stuff, like working with the doctors. Mm-hmm. So I was stepping away from the patients, but still working with addicts because I worked with the techs and the owners were in recovery. And then all my other jobs have been with people in recovery. And like, the pros is that we like talk about real shit, like on our lunch breaks or whatever, passing in the hall, we talk about the pain in our lives, the joys in our lives. We talk about real shit. Mm-hmm. The other is that we're all sick and we act emotionally instead of logically. We don't act professional. So something that would never happen in a normal office would happen in our office.
Yeah.
There would be full out screaming fights. There'll be crying. There'll be like whatever. The boss will scream at
patients?
No, staff.
Oh, okay.
The patients are done. Like, I don't work with patients anymore.
Yeah.
But still, full out screaming matches will still happen. People crying, hearing about things you really shouldn't hear about, talking about things you really shouldn't talk, and like trying to like keep up that line between you're my boss and then you just told me all this crazy shit you just did. Like, it's like, okay, so like I have to put my professional hat on when we're talking about work things and then my recovery hat on when we're talking about real life. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you get confused about what hat you're wearing and they're not wearing the same hat, and conflict. Yep. Like, it causes a lot of conflict. Mm-hmm. But I'm working with my best friends, so like, that's great. Like, it's fun to work with friends. Yeah. Especially when we have worked together for so long that we know, okay, I'm going to go into work mode. I'll see you in an hour and a half. We'll check in then, you know, but I'm going to go, you know, and so that's great. But then, the personalities, principles over personalities.
Always.
You mentioned something there with like, when you were a tech, and I think where you are now, probably with working in recovery, great, right? You're not working with patients. You don't have that extra load that you're carrying of like all these people's emotional baggage, and drama, and just that bullshit that comes with early recovery.
Right.
And like, but how hard is it when you're a tech or if you're working with patients? Because this was always the reason, like, because everyone has that thought of like, I want to work in recovery, right? When you're going through recovery, because it's great and blah, blah, blah. But the downside is people die.
Right.
All the time. And we become pretty like,
oh yeah.
I don't want to say immune. Like, I'm kind of cold to it, honestly. Like, I've had enough good friends die that like, when it's kind of like acquaintances, I'm just like, okay. Right. They're not here anymore. Right. All right. You know, and it's kind of sad to think about it that way when we're this young, but that's just the way we grew up. But how did that emotional toll as a tech, when you're kind of like keeping these kids, like, you know, from fucking and doing drugs, like, they die.
Yeah.
Like, and they die often. Like, how does that, and you might have had connections with them. Like, how did you kind of process that and, like, you know, work through it?
Definitely, like what you said, is just become very detached to them. So like, because I worked in treatment and saw so many in and out using, I became very detached from people in general using and relapsing and dying. I mean, my coworkers would die. Like, it wasn't just patients that would die.
Because everyone's in recovery, too.
So, like, anyone could die at any given moment. Yeah. And that's kind of been, Yeah, 2 of my coworkers died at Mark. Like, really? Yeah. I forget the other one's name. Alex, I think his name was. But so, like, it's not just the patients. So just very, very desensitized to death, like super, and to relapse even. Like, it kind of took until one of my very close friends just recently relapsed for me to feel it. I was upset. Like, I cried. You know, like, it like snapped me back to reality, that because I've lived in this bubble where my immediate circle, no one ever relapsed, no one ever died. It was just the outer circles that would relapse and they would die. So I was so protected in my little bubble of my 8 friends that I've had for years that were all good. Yeah. We all go to meetings, not as much anymore, but we go to meetings, we have sponsors, we're doing what we're supposed to. Yeah. And then one fell off and I was just devastated, you know, like there was, I was like, oh my God, like this, it was like a wake-up call, like any of us could use, like anyone could make the decision tomorrow to use. Like it was such a good / bad thing, but like it was such an eye-opener that like it makes me want to go to meetings more, and it wants me to like inventory my own recovery, because like, fuck, if she could do it, why couldn't I? You know, like it was definitely the wake-up call that I needed. And thank God she's back from treatment, she's in recovery, like she's doing great, and she didn't die, but like she overdosed. You know, she could have if she didn't. If she wasn't like prepared and like knew what, and like had some knowledge from being in recovery and knew like what was happening to her, she could be dead, you know? And then that would be a whole nother thing. But like, I'm just so grateful. And people were mad, and I'm like, why are you mad?
Yeah, don't be fucking mad.
Like, it's what people we do.
Yeah.
We all want to use every single day. Why are you mad that someone finally just gave in? Like, it's not her fault. It's the disease in all of us. Like, it's just sad. It's sad, and I just hate to see it. And it's been such a trend in my area of these people going out to be normies. It's not like they don't even call it a relapse. They just are like, I'm just gonna leave. Bye. Yeah. They'll have group conscience and be like, I love you guys so much. Call me anytime. I'm just gonna go drink. It's gonna be fine though. Yeah. And for a lot of them, it is thus far. Yeah. You know, which is the scary and sad part. But like, it was just this wave of people becoming quote unquote normies. And so now it's even a different kind of way to look at relapse, you know, because usually when someone relapses, you have to keep your distance because they might whatever, but now they're coming to parties and they're coming to weddings and they're still hanging out because they're doing fine, and they just don't drink in front of us, and it's like, oh, my brain, like, what do I do? Like, should I cut you off, or should I still be your friend because you're fine, and maybe you were just going through a rough patch, and maybe you're not an addict. Am I an addict? Are you an addict? You know, it definitely
brings a whole new paradigm to everything.
Right.
It's hard.
And you know what? Like, some people can come in and go back.
Right.
And they figured some things out, and they can drink. But like with me, like, just like how I look at it, I'm like, is it possible that I could use successfully and manageably? Right. Sure. But the other side of that coin is I could go back and try to and completely fail and ruin everything in my life. My job, my marriage, me being a father.
Right.
Like, so if it's that 50-50 of a shot for me, why am I going to gamble?
Right.
Fuck that. It is for me. it's not worth the gamble.
Yeah, life is good.
Life is good.
And I mean, I know that I will get drunk, I will drive, and I will get a 50
Exactly.
UI.
I don't even think it's 50-50. But
it's not even.
It's
I
way
know.
more. Exactly. I know. Like, because when was it one beer? Never. When was it one anything?
Nope. And even when I think about drinking, I think about getting drunk. I don't think about having, I just want to have a glass of wine with dinner. No, I want a bottle with dinner.
Yeah.
Still to this day, I know that I cannot use successfully.
Oh, yeah.
Which is,
because, when a thought about cocaine pops into my head, and it's like, well, that would be a fun year of my life.
Right.
Like,
I'm just grateful for that alcohol was my bottom, because a lot of these people were heroin addicts that are going out on alcohol because they didn't really drink.
Yeah.
But I know
your dealers on every corner.
Right.
Yep. And in neon signs.
And I know that it will take me to a 50 UI. That there's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's where I'm going.
If you don't kill someone or yourself.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Right.
Because, that blackout DUI, it could happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I'm all out of questions. Do you have any, Eric?
I'm out, dude. Yeah.
All right. Well, we would like to thank our friend Ben for joining us today.
Woo!
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. One quick minute. Talk to anybody out there who's struggling, needs to hear a message of hope. What do you have to say directly to them?
Just keep coming back. Don't give up. Don't give up on yourself, and whatever recovery path you choose, you are not wrong. No matter what people tell you, as long as you are doing better than the day before, just keep coming back and keep doing what's right, and you'll be good.
Absolutely. All right. Well, here at Podcast Recovery, we are aiming to expand the scope of support for recovering addicts. Accessibility and convenience of helpful services is paramount to combating addiction. We work to bring the message of recovery to every addict wherever and whenever it is needed. We believe that a powerful voice of recovery should be obtainable, practical, and at the touch of a button. Every addict deserves to hear a message of hope, and Podcast Recovery is here to provide it. All right, everybody, thanks for joining us once again. Go to all our social media outlets, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. For more information about us, go to podcastrecovery.com. And if you'd like to be a guest, by all means, send us a message. Join our Patreon, because we are self-supporting and need help keeping the mics on. But most importantly, Eric, if you'll help me out with this, what is it?
Everybody stay safe and stay clean out there.